All right, put your guess in right now for what map you think this is. Everybody got it? Go put it in the comments. All right, time for the reveal. Yep, you guessed it. Whoa. Today we're looking at a game on Forge. For those of you that did actually guess it correctly, congratulations, because I certainly did not. I had no idea the skybox for this map, oh, there we go, is so beautiful. What an absolutely lovely map. I love the details in all of the little things in Beyond All Reason, from the lava having these beautiful little swirly effects to these golden crystals, which our commanders will be taking exuberant leisure in consuming to fund their many, many war fund projects. Commanders like, for instance, our red team leader, Diego 91B. Going to be spawning on the southern side of the front, right in the middle position, the southern middle position here for the red team on the western side. Right up against, but across from, well, I guess diagonally across from our blue team leader here, it's going to be Crack Pirate. Man, if there's one thing that I wouldn't want to come across in the high seas, whether, you know, it's like the 1630s or, you know, 2024, it's got to be a Crack Pirate. I feel like that's just the worst of both worlds. You get the worst aspects of a crackhead and the worst aspects of a pirate, and you put them together and you get a crack pirate. I'm excited to see what goes down on this map today. It is a lower skill lobby, so I'm excited to see these folks learn how to play Forge. It's a very, very exciting map because there's just so much metal. I think I've said this before in a cast, but I'm not sure if I ever elaborated on it. And if that is true, then I apologize, because I tend to run off the rails sometimes. But on Forge, one of the most interesting things is that the back line is the front line. And that doesn't sound right, but let me explain here. You can see that all these metal points right here, both of these ones are both 4.0s, as well as all the metal extractors going all the way through in the middle of the map. And so what that means is that these players that are playing on the front line are going to have an access to a tremendously larger amount of resources very early on than the backline will. So if anybody is going for eco in the backline, it is against the grain here, essentially, which is interesting, right? That's not usual for a map. Usually the front line has to stick around on T1 until the backline gets those T2s out and hands them all off to the teammates, which is, you know, sort of the standard course. Ultimo Dealer taking a little bit of damage here. Very nicely done by Be Smooth to get these rovers into the backline, sniping all 3 metal extractors. That is currently Ultimo Dealer down to just +4 metal per second. Where's he even getting that +4 from? 2 from the commander. Oh, there's one right here. I didn't see it. Spinning away right in front of my face. There was also some damage done up here, I believe, by Crack Pirate, who got a couple of rovers into the backline. Yeah, those sneaky boys, they're still lingering around here. They hid themselves away so that they could come back out of hiding and snipe the metal extractor one more time. Very nicely done. That's a proper high-level play right there. So what's the strategy on Forge? Well, typically it involves vehicles more often than not, but vehicles make a great argument in the center of the maps right here, as you can see by these incisors, highlighting my point, which is that it's very flat and very open, so vehicles are going to reign supreme here. They have that long-range artillery, they have those missile trucks, and of course they have the stouts, those medium tanks that are super, super powerful. Meanwhile, bots are a little bit less convincing for the reason that most players will be going for vehicles, so that's not usually the main decision here. Now, starting bots isn't a bad idea, but well, and the reason for that is because you want to get those res bots out, right? You want to reclaim as much of this energy crystal as you can. However, transitioning is usually the most common strategy here. Now, as far as most common enders go, and end game scenarios go, usually the way that it's determined is one player from either team will build up enough bombers that they can push right over this mountain here and bomb the other team. And they will drop a bunch of bombs if the team builds advanced fusion or advanced georeactors on any of these little plates right here. Then yeah, they'll pop and it'll take down both of these players simultaneously, and that's usually the game winner. It's very simple, but also it's very difficult to defend against. So despite it being the most common way that Forge games end, it is not always the easiest to prevent. So I'm excited to see if they come up with a solution here, or if they come up with a more creative way to finish this game off. You can see the economies are very different here. You can see, for instance, IQ has 25 metal income per second here. holding all of these metal extractors, as well as the forward metal extractors here, getting just a tremendous amount of metal back versus someone in the back line, like for instance Soulstream, who is only on 14 metal per second. So if you trust your backline, what you can do, of course, is just funnel metal back in that direction, right? You can just help them pay for that T2 lab very quickly. However, if you don't trust your backline, well, let's just say that you can always keep that metal to yourself and use it for your own processes. Market Maker is receiving a barrage of hailfire from a couple of these aggravators here. Dangerous little rocket bot. Luckily, Market Maker is going up against Daedalus, who is also going for those bots early on. It's unlikely. Now, there are the vehicles out already, but it's... Oh, I see. Okay, so Daedalus has gone for a vehicle lab after the bot lab, so he's made that transition already. And it looks like Market Maker has as well, actually, getting a couple of these vehicles out. Very nicely done. A couple of medium tanks pushing forward. Market Maker needs to D-gun these. He didn't quite get the D-gun off, and they will take down one of his laser turrets. Engagements like that could definitely be the difference between winning and losing here. Now he's down 4 metal per second as that metal extractor gets sniped. Daedalus doing an excellent job of posturing just far enough to deny that income, while also maintaining his force close enough that his commander could step up and D-gun, or he could retreat it if need be. Oh, excellent little D-gun there. It took out 4 of those tanks with a single D-gun. Well, I think 3 of them died, and one of them was lasered down, but effectively 4 of those tanks have died there. That was very nicely done. Shuts down that aggression a little bit sooner, a little bit cleaner. Klink's going up against Diego. Klinks does not have this metal extractor. Needs to claim that ASAP. Medium tanks here also posturing. It's all about posturing. You got to keep your units in the right spot at the right time, and you got to make sure that your lane isn't exposed. Otherwise, somebody's going to run right by, and then the entire backline is ravaged up these ramps in this direction. It's very, very dangerous. What's the backline up to here? Ultimo Dealer going for some anti-air over here on this cliff. That's very important. Oftentimes, transports will be used to bridge this gap, and then you can drop units off, and they will just swarm into the backline as such. Whoops. But there's also other strategies that include just sending bombers around in that direction or anything like that. Whoa, a little bit of chuggies right there. Laser turret, whittling down these medium tanks. Not very fast, but fairly effective, and it does outrange them slightly. So, you know, technically infinite value if those tanks want to just park at the edge of that laser turret's effective range. That's it's always a trade that the laser turret will be more than happy to take. Rocket bots feeling the wrath of those stouts, though, as they point their nozzles in their direction, and quickly those rocket bots will fall here. The artillery trucks are raining down fire, but again, those artillery trucks are mainly meant for static defense, right? They're not really meant to attack units, and so the only time you're ever really going to get an effective trade against them is if those units are standing completely still, which, assuming decent micro, that really should essentially be never. You can always set these on a repeat command, and then right-click somewhere, shift right-click another place, and they'll constantly be moving. That'll essentially guarantee that they avoid the artillery fire here. More artillery down here, again, to take out the laser turrets, which is just great. Commander actually goes down here up north. Yeah, that's a dangerous loss right there. Market Maker is now down the commander. It also puts a big pool of lava, which units can step in. Oh, that's a bummer. A bunch of units do dive into the lava pools, taking a little lava bath there, and won't be long before they melt into incinerated pieces of scrap metal. Backline T2 is up. Soulstream has gone for that T2 lab and does have T2 bots coming out all over the place. Looks like he's handed one off already to the person right in front of him. It's going to be Bimac rather. Are we going to hand any more out? I'd love to see more handed out across the board here. Just hand them out to everybody on the front line at the very least. Remember, these are 4 metal per second. You multiply that by 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, I do believe, is the number that we're going to be looking at as far as metal per second per metal extractor when we upgrade those to those T2 metal extractors. So it's very, very well worth it, is the point that I'm trying to exaggerate there. Okay, a little bit of a fighter screen. It's always nice. This distance from here to this geothermal is minimal, and so it takes very, very few fighters on the enemy's account in order to breach that. So fighter screens usually aren't what's going to do it. You essentially want to just scribble flak in this area. You want to make it so difficult to move bombers through this area that they just can't even conceive of it. They can't even fathom moving that many bombers through there. You do that, and then you put a couple long-range sand batteries back here. The flak will take out the fighters. The sand batteries will then fire on the bombers that are heading in. That's one very effective way to counter that push. Others, of course, being getting a bunch of anti-air units, like, for instance, the flak trucks, parking those all around. Anything like that is going to be great, but you really, really need the flak more than anything else. Turning into no man's land here in the middle of the map. Need to reassign the music here. Come on. Give me something good, Russell Lucas. Nut. This is a very cute little battle. Those medium tanks are so hard to kill when they're grouped up in numbers like that. Every time they shoot, you just know something is going to die. So it's really, really disheartening, especially to go bots against that, because you just know that you cannot really take an engagement. There's not really an even engagement you can take. It's just every fight is going to be somewhat bad. There are like decent fights and there are bad fights, but there's no good fights. It should definitely be pressuring these commanders into transitioning into vehicles. If your enemy is going vehicles, your easiest way to counter them is just go vehicles yourself. Now, that's not the easiest thing to do, granted. Especially if you're newer to the game, like some of these players are. But it's well worth practicing, getting those tech transitions down. It's easier to do if you have build power in the back, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you need to figure out how to do that without build power in the back, and that could mean using your commander to build a forward vehicle bay and then sending a constructor back to go eat up your bot lab, or you building a constructor in the back and using it to build up some build power or just build a new lab. One way or another, figuring out how to make those transitions happen as smoothly as possible. D-gun moving in, or commander rather, moving in for the D-gun. Will get it, takes out a couple of those tanks. Still plenty of medium tanks here to be dangerous though, and you can see that T1 laser turret will burst down pretty quickly. Enough maces at the moment in order to dissuade these units from pushing in, but look at this commander, who is that there? Be Smooth, eating up all of that metal here. 3.5 thousand metal in this reclaim field right there. That is well worth trying to get your greedy, grubby little mitts on. This is a critical error. Not getting these geothermals is actually a pretty big mistake. These are well within the claiming boundaries of Clinks here, but I think probably Crack Pirate has a fair enough reason to just send a constructor to build these, since Clinks has not bothered to at this point. Those geothermals are what allow Forge to be a competitive match, because it allows the center players, which have all that metal, it allows them a very, very efficient way to get a tremendous amount of energy, and that can put a lot of units on the field very quickly. It's also good for static defenses as well, again, like flak turrets, that sort of thing. So a fun feature about res bots, construction bots, anything like that, is you can hit this restore button, and when you do that, it will bring the map back to its original height here, so you won't lose units like this from trudging through the lava and getting all melted into pieces. Yeah. Oh, this little lava pool is costing Market Maker so much right here. Market Maker is either unaware or has just forgotten that the restore option is available, and it's gonna continue costing him, I have a feeling. The more you move units through here, this puddle, this commander kill ends up being, it just amplifies, right? Over the course of the game, every unit that walks in there is gonna take a little damage. Nice D-guns there, by the way, from Daedalus. Excellently done. A little bit of aggression over here. A gauntlet was built. That's nice. We do have Janices here. Excellent for the defense. Those artillery shells raining down as well on the units that are pushing in here. This push from blue is actually being countered phenomenally here. Janice is getting their second firing out now, and now it's a counterattack from pink, who's going to move their artillery in, try and do something with all of the units that they have left standing. Crack Pirate is in a little bit of trouble here. Commander is relatively healthy, but it doesn't take too many hits from those Janices in order to bring it down. Yeah, he's going to D-gun him. Definitely the right move. Shutting down this gauntlet would be quite nice. And he will get it, so that means that IQ's gauntlet will be the last one remaining here, and that's an oppressive force on the front line if you can get enough value out from it. Agitator was built over here. Agitator is the Cortex gauntlet equivalent. And it looks like we are heading straight into that T2 stage here. Going for an anti-nuke, always nice. You never know when your enemies might be thinking of nuclear arms. You never know. What are we up to over here? Spiritus Daemonium. Satanus. Spiritus Demonius. Sorry, that's what that reminds me of. Oh, he does have a phenomenal army here on the front. Okay, so we have a... Well, it's actually a support army. You can see it's basically all Wolverines with a couple of missile trucks included in here. Actually, no, Spiritus doesn't have any missile trucks. It's just his pals over here that have them. If you have all these units on the front line, I'd really like to see these handed over, either pass them to Be Smooth or to Clinks. I think either one of those would be phenomenal. That way, it's just, you know, the frontliners are focused on frontlining, you're focused on the eco in the back here. Because, for the time being, these units are effectively unused, right? I mean, that's, it's a solid 4,000 metal that's just unused on the floor here. So it'd definitely be better to use those in some capacity or just hand them off to a teammate. Effectively, it's like giving metal, but it's a little bit different. A little bit more APM taxing as well. This is a 3v1 though, and so Diego is in a bit of a bind here. Bimac is trying desperately to get enough units out to counter all this. Gunslingers are headed out from the back. That's definitely an excellent option for shutting down those T1 vehicles. You can get a huge amount of value out by using those T2 gunslingers against the T1 vehicles. You can shut those early pushes down, or those mid-game, those early to mid-game. I guess it's kind of like a transitionary period. And that's right where we're at right now, actually, I would say. We've kind of got T2 hitting the field, not quite in bulky enough numbers, but they are starting to march their way out here. And you can see that the backline is starting to try and support here, like, for instance, these gunslingers. All I'll say is that's an excellent choice as far as units to support with. Diego 91B moving the commander in here, hoping to get a comm bomb off. Looks like cloaking the commander will dissuade this army from pushing it any further. There was excellent posturing right there, going to shut down any efforts to push in here. Excellently done. Just feinting with the commander in order to force those units to back off, lest they become the unfortunate victims of the disintegrator cannon mounted on the left arm of every Armada commander. Sheldon are coming out. They're the bread and butter for the Cortex T2 bot lab. And the Spybot on the front too, that's quite nice. Spybot, of course, the pinnacle of detection technology. The old I pointed it and it evaporates technology. Okay, Wolverine's running into the Shell Shocker firing range here. Very dangerous. Mauser coming out too. Really, really inefficient trade here. Gauntlet, of course, firing on whatever it can back here. Looks like it's found some Dragon's Claws that it's trying to disintegrate. Dragon's Claws very resilient and very capable of being repaired, which is, I think, what's being abused here, essentially. Shell Shockers are up. Shell Shockers are down. I'm not sure why we're sending in the artillery as the shock force here. We're even sending in the Mausers. What on earth? That's a little bit of a miss micro right there. I don't think those Mausers were meant to move that far forward. I think he probably meant to send in the Bulls and the Bulls and the Stouts instead of the Mausers, or maybe the Bulls and then the Mausers. I'm not sure exactly, but I would definitely recommend putting these on Control Group 2 and putting these on Control Group 1, and after all that, you're going to be in a nice little position there. Blue looks to have effectively won the entire southern field here. It's going to take a lot in order to regain control here. Those T1 Wolverines, they certainly can lay down the hurt. You have to be careful. They can definitely friendly fire here. If Grunt gets a little too close, yeah, these well, they're not entirely against shooting at their own feet, shooting directly up in the air, in other words. What goes up must come down, and in this case, it's artillery, so probably much rather have it go forward rather than directly back down. What is the backline up to? Looks like Soulstream is still ecoing. We do have these T1 solar panels. We could try and get a little bit more eco out. Am I missing an eco spot? I am. Okay, so we've got fusion reactors. Okay, that's great. So fusion reactors, we've got the energy converters, all that good stuff coming up here. Very, very nice to see. We've got Fat Boys heading out here, as well as a couple of sprinters trying to bolster this front line. Fat Boys are a decent option here. They can do an AoE shot that will, I believe it'll one-shot all of these Wolverines, and it'll one or two shot or two or three shot, I mean, rather, the Stouts here on the front line. So I think that's a decent option as well. Oh, looks like there was a little bit of a pause right there. Philip J. Fry. He got tired of delivering packages, decided he needed a little break. And there's the Fat Boy firing away into the distance. This is a dangerous little breakaway of tanks. This needs to be addressed. Oh, that Fat Boy is the answer here. You can see it melted all of those tanks right there, made it very easy for the rest of these units to clean up. Excellently done. Got that unit into just the right position. That was just the right decision. Really, really cool to see. Backlines are teching. They're teching their absolute hearts out. These front lines could be way more aggressive here. Yeah, these Wolverines with the support of all these brutes right here. I mean, we have, for the blue team, a grand total of 26 brutes. More than enough to push in on this direction. However, it's those Fat Boys that you really got to worry about. There are spy bots up north, so maybe we could spare one down south. Try and get a spy bot into these guys' hands. That way they can paralyze that Fat Boy and then jump a bunch of their units on top of it. The waterfall of death. If I can get a clip of all of them firing in synchrony. Oh, that's pretty cool. I love how atmospheric it is to watch all the artillery in this game. By far, one of my favorite things about this game is just how when the artillery fires, it all fires just such a satisfying pattern. Especially these ones that lob their shot all the way up in the air. If you happen to join me for the Wednesday, Saturday streams, sometimes we'll change some of the settings. And one of the ones we did today, actually, as of recording this, was changing the attack range of all units by 4 times, increasing it by 4x. And that meant that artillery pieces would fire almost up to the moon before their shells would come back down. Because apparently the way that it's supposed to work is when they fire the shell, it also increases, when it increases the attack range, it also increases the velocity of the thing that it's firing in order to increase that attack range, which is pretty interesting. Nice deacons there mopping up a couple of these tanks. That push was held very, very nicely. That was an inefficient trade for the red player. However, these T2 units are going to have a slightly easier time pushing in now because of it. Well, as long as these units don't get jumped upon, but that's exactly what the blue player is looking to do here. And Fat Boys are going to be forced to back off here. Radar jammer going to cover their retreat. You can see them just melting away those tanks as if it were nothing. At this point, it's time to start considering going for an advanced fusion reactor. You've got 17,000 metal in fusion reactors. Sorry, the math didn't add. Oh, it's because of this one right here. Okay, yeah, there we go. 12,000, about basically 1,300 metal in fusion reactors. Oh, gonna go for more fusion reactors. Okay, that's slightly inefficient. I think at this scale, you might as well just go for the full-on fusion reactor. It's 9,700, and with this much build power, it's only going to tax you about 100 metal per second, which you'll be able to keep your supply high enough with. Push up north here does fizzle out as a lot of these units go down to the artillery fire. These Sheldon just oppressive in their siege. And Crack Pirate's commander also degunning down the auxiliary forces here, leaving actually relatively little to defend this line. Yeah, these bulls could get a little adventurous, try and push forward. At the very least, scratch up some of these light laser turrets, force them to consider being rebuilt here. We never upgraded these to prudes or advanced fusion reactors. I like to go for prudes when I'm in this position. Oh, we are trying to go for the advanced geo rather. Big tank push, but the commander is in the right position here. Will degun down most of those tanks. Nicely done there. Cleaning up that push with relative ease. Very, very nicely done by Diego. Oh, yeah, he's dancing. He's dancing to keep the commander. Ooh, the friendly fire from the Pitbull. Oh, no. Oh, look at him hide in shame. You could just feel the shame as he tucked his head in there. Ooh, I didn't kill him. Oh, no. That was just awful. Oh, the Pitbull had to cower away in its little dome because it knows that it's going to get a stern talking to, a sternly written letter from the red team commander who just got sniped from the back from his own team's static defense. Yikes. Rattlesnakes are very difficult to deal with. They lob their projectile away at such a long distance. It's very difficult to justify pushing into them, especially if you know that it's a porked up position. By the way, somebody asked what I meant by that. There was I can't imagine if it was a Reddit post or if it was I can't remember rather. If it was a Reddit post or what it was, but somebody said they didn't know a lot of the slang and terminology, and one of the ones they listed was pork, which is fair because most of the time it's called turtling in video games, but in this one it's called porking because you're like a porcupine where it's very difficult to touch you without you know, getting poked. And it's essentially when you just build a bunch of static defense that's meant to blow up whatever it fires at. Stealthy missile trucks targeting whatever they can over here. Spybot giving them the vision they need in order to do that, and the missiles just firing away at a distance. They pop that radar jammer, which is quite nice, and you can see that these units are firing where they think they saw that Spybot. There was a intrusion measure, a counter-intrusion measure that was built over here, the tracer, but it only detects units when they're moving. Doesn't detect stealth units when they're just standing still here, so that's why this Spybot is able to just hang on and hold out. Yep, there we go. If we switch to this vision, we can see they see the little indicator for the Spybot moving around over here. Yep, these rockets launching away. Rocket trucks are the T2 rocket trucks are very, very dangerous. You have to have an immense amount of respect for them. They can tear apart your forces very quickly if you let them. Big row of gunslingers here. Gunslingers are rapidly losing their effectiveness. You know, I say that, but that is a lot of T1 medium tanks. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah, this actually is a pretty good composition for this. I underestimated how much T1 medium tank there would still be in this composition here, but actually those gunslingers are going to do a fine job against them. Armed exploiters, very difficult to kill though. That's going to be, yeah, at least one gunslinger down. So annoying to push into these gunslingers. You know that if you don't get the kill, then you've effectively not done any damage at all. It's so annoying. One of the most annoying units to face against because you just know that you're never going to take a really decent trade against them. Especially these T1 medium tanks going down super quick to those Gauss cannons they fire. A couple of them starting to gain a little bit of experience too. No ranks yet as far as I can tell, but they're leveling up, rest assured. You see the real superpower is the fact that they revive themselves, they regenerate. And that regeneration allows them to stay on the front lines a lot longer than most regular units, especially like, I mean, even this artillery, right? This artillery's firing away at them and scratching them up, but it doesn't really matter because they're gonna regenerate and they'll stay alive for way longer than most units would be able to. Starlights here to burst down any of those tanky units. It's exactly what you want, but you have to pair that with something like a bunch of Jaguars or some Spybots or something in order to give these the vision advantage that they need. T2 is coming out of Soulstream over here. Still has these T1 solar panels. Wouldn't mind seeing those eaten up. Did end up going into those fusion reactors. All right. Oh, and built some pinpointers back here. That's quite nice. Yeah, okay. That's something we see neglected quite often is not building those pinpointers, but your team will be so grateful for you for putting those up. They're very useful. Is this an exposed area? I think it is. Right here, if you put a nuke exactly right on this spot, you'd be able to blow up this entire area. I'm just saying. Proper scouting may reveal that. Just highlighting why it's so important to send out those scout points. I do see them included in here. If we select these units, yeah, you can see the Condor is selected here, the radar sonar point. It's the T2 scout point. And it can see very far. It's really what you want to use for those scouting runs later on in the game. Not only can it see farther, but father. You are the father, Condor. No, you can see a lot farther with them, but you can also survive a lot more with them. They're much more tanky than the T1, like the Blinks or the Finches and things like that. It just exploded over here. Something just went boom. I did not. Oh, I know what it is. It's a tactical nuke launcher that's been built by Crack Pirate, been used to harass the front lines here. That's quite nice. Meanwhile, a big push here trying to break through with all this T1 medium tanks accompanied by T2 fire support. We've got Zars in the mix, we've got Bulls in the mix, we've got basically everything you could want in the mix here. Gunslinger's still standing strong though. Scuffed up, but that's no problem. We'll be back to full health in no time at all. Yeah, overall, that aggression was not very good. Unfortunately, Spiritus Demonium is still on T1. It's really time to upgrade to T2. Also, talk about a chain reaction waiting to happen. These windmills are way too close together. They need to be spaced out one apart. Otherwise, they are just going to light up like a Christmas tree if a single bomber passes over them. T3 lab is available for Narul here. T3 lab also up and running for Market Maker. Wondering why we're not seeing Vanguards yet. I feel like Vanguards definitely represent the best option here. Ooh, that was a nice little tactical nuke right there. Took out a couple of snipers. Snipers are another one of those very, very annoying units to push into. You know that if you essentially don't jump on top of them with all the units that you have, you're just going to be sacrificing. You're just going to be taking losses. Very difficult to justify. So just for comparison, by the way, if we take the economy of Diego, 51 metal per second, and he's holding this line, he's got a couple of T2 metal extractors here. On the front line, he's got a one advanced geo and working on a second one. And he is currently pulling in 51 metal per second versus the backline player, who has been allowed to eco essentially as much as he wanted, is now producing snipers, is up to around 80-ish metal per second. Bordering on 100 or so, depending on reclaim and whatnot. But still, you can see the effectiveness is essentially that despite having none of the economy, like very, very little of the economy, Diego is still able to produce a massive amount of units here. Wondering why we're not going for starlights, though. Starlights are really the ideal unit to build up a key infrastructure. You can see the blue player going for plenty of them, and they rapidly burst down basically anything that the enemy can send at you. They are the real T3 killer, and at this point, I believe the Razorbacks have been spotted, so starlights are going to be the name of the game here. Another option for Cortex players is the Scuttle. It's easy to forget, but Scuttles are very, very efficient at taking down T3. I believe they're 500 metal each, and they can do, I think 4 of them kill a Razorback if you self-destruct them, which is tremendous. That's 2,000 metal to kill 3,800 metal. It's a 1,800 metal profit, in other words. Well worth it to start investing in Scuttles if you're working on it in the late game. And you have to be careful, right? Because Scuttles are highly explosive, so you don't really want to keep them around too long. You don't want to really like keep them in your house or anything, but you definitely want to use them and abuse them as much as possible, and then make sure that they're nowhere near you when they die. You can see these starlights. Sorry about that. You can see these starlights melting away these Razorbacks here. Unfortunately, we're going to lose all of them to the Razorbacks as they do eventually jump on top of this little support composition here, but that was a nice bit of damage that scuffed up and killed 2 of those Razorbacks with those starlights. It's important to know which units kill T3 and which units don't. For Cortex, it's a little bit trickier because you just kind of need a lot of units. For Armada, it's the sniper and it's the starlight. I'm trying to think actually, what does Cortex do when they want to kill T3 units using T2? I guess what they do is they build a mammoth, or they build a. I'm also realizing this is a lot of Armada on the front lines here. I think they build a lot of mammoths. I think they build a lot of sumos. And I think they do it that way. They just outlast the T3 with an exuberant amount of health and high damage. A couple of Tigers shaking the front lines here, waiting for the Mauser to push in. Again, we are moving the artillery so far forward here. The artillery is meant to siege from far away. I'm not sure why the artillery is being used as a shock vehicle here. Either way, it's nice that we have these resbots out eating up that 27,000 worth of metal right here. Very, very nicely done. They will go down eventually, but still, putting several thousand of that metal back in your pocket is well worth it. Especially considering how far forward that metal is. I mean, that's all easily on the red team's side here, so eating as much of it as possible is always going to be worthwhile. Again, restore the land, please. You're melting away your forces. This is another option. You can always send Karganeth around. Send them around the mountaintop. Technically, you can send them through the inside, too. Send them around the bowl. Send them up and over. It's tricky, but it's possible. It takes a good bit of micro. Phenomenal eco center back here for Soulstream. 1 True Skill, 1 Chevron Canadian player, and showing us that he's not afraid to build a monster of an economy. We see more advanced fusion reactors coming up on the front, as well as a tick spam starting up here. Tick spam, of course, meant to waste the shots from any of these heavy-hitting T3, like, for instance, the catapult there, the Sheldon, the Karganeth, all that good stuff. But especially any snipers or starlights that may be in the mix, like down here for the blue player. So the blue player is a mixed Armada and Cortex faction. It just goes to show how powerful that can be. You get the tactical nuke, but you also get these starlights, which can just burst down essentially everything. Karganeth making a little bit of a push down here. They've sort of found their angle. Snipers, though, will burst them down real quick. Yep, those snipers, man, they're powerful. It takes a while for them to recharge their shots, but if they can get a second one off, that'll be another dead batch of Karganeths here. One or two at least. Looks like it's going to be two. Yeah. Not going to be able to shut down these next auxiliary two. At least not without taking some fire themselves. For what it's worth, they did a great job of shutting down most of those Karganeth, but there are still plenty to continue pushing forward here with this army. IQ has moved his commander forward and is using it to de-gun down these units. That's quite nice. Again, the Sheldon are being used as assault units. The siege units are being used as assault units. Advanced Geo in a little bit of trouble here. Units way too close. It's going to pop. They're all going to be way too close to the explosion radius. But it won't matter as that triggers a chain reaction that devastates all of the build power here for the yellow player. We have T3 from the backline yet. Unfortunately, we don't have T3 yet from the backline. Yellow player was the only one with T3. More and more snipers coming up here. But eventually that push will be held. Very, very costly, but it will be held. Gunslingers lose effectiveness quickly as we move into the T2 tanks. They're just a little bit too tanky. No pun. Is it a pun? It's not really a pun, is it? No irony intended. No obvious intended. The tank is tanky. Can confirm. Nuke was launched, but luckily, the foresight of building an anti-nuke here. Who was it? Looks like it was Soulstream. Built the anti-nuke. Had the idea, you know, thought to himself, I probably wouldn't enjoy being nuked very much. And decided it was worth the cost, the 1500 metal, to build that anti-nuke system here. Spy bots are really the name of the game. We're on the T2 bot labs. It's really time that we start building a whole bunch of spy bots and putting them on the front lines here. You can rain away with long-distance siege weapons if you just build a couple of spy bots. They're going to give you that vision that you desperately need, and you're going to be in a really good spot here. So many of these missile trucks. We don't usually see them in this many numbers, but I do really like them. They can really reach out and hit pretty hard. You can see their range is quite tremendous. They're a devastating unit for sure. I'm noticing bombers included in the aerial composition here. Where are they? Yeah, there they are. The hailstorms flying around back and forth here. The green player has way more than enough air to break through the air wall here of the maroon player. It's just a matter of pulling the trigger. I think right now actually might be the perfect time. All forces are directed towards either side. There's essentially no contest here. Not a lot of anti-air here either. We do have the consoles, which can build anti-air flak turrets, but none of that has gone up here. And so I think if the green player just moves his fighters forward, sends in the bombers, he's going to kill both of these players, probably causing a chain reaction in this direction and this direction. Whoops, this direction. And yeah, you're going to get a really, really good effect. Both lines can collapse on that push there. I'd love to see the green player do it. I think he really could. Cerberus are very powerful in this map too, because it's one of the few maps that have geothermals in really accessible positions here. One sniper shot shakes off 2% of a juggernaut, which is insane for a T2 unit. So definitely one option to deal with juggernaut into the late game is hundreds and hundreds of sniper rifles, but still not the most effective way, and they most of the time will get blasted down here. There's not a lot holding this push together here on the southern side of the map. Holding back this push, I should say. This is an excellent composition. Those Karganeth have a little light anti-air rocket. The Pulsars back, or rather the Starlights back here, are going to be bursting down all of these tanks with their blue laser beams, and the Juggernaut, of course, acting as the damage sponge, soaking up all of those heavy hits and continuing to march forward. Anti-air also included in here is very nice. It's going to thin out this wall of fighters here, as you can see those flak guns firing away at the air. going to start thinning out that air wall even more, and that's going to allow the green player an excellent opportunity to move in there and start using those fighters offensively. It's about time. The Juggernaut is heading in. There's not really anything to stop this Juggernaut. We need a D-gun desperately, but there's not any commanders left. Yeah, the red team has 5 commanders remaining, but I guess they're all in the back line because there's no commanders left to D-gun this Juggernaut, and without any way to shut it down effectively, instantaneously. Yeah, this is going to be the pink player and the red player because these two players are inextricably connected, and they are now going to go down together. We get to watch the death of 2 players in slow motion here. Beautiful chain reaction. Oh, and there's the slow-mo LRPC shot. Oh yeah, Crack Pirate gives out the call out that he's been killing all the air defenses here for the red team. And that's absolutely correct. Takes out the yellow player as well with this Juggernaut push. What a devastating composition. Juggernaut, Starlight, plus some anti-air for anti-air support. What an excellent little push right there. Gonna send in the units. The Condors parking themselves right here. Don't know if that's where they're gonna want to be. Hailstorm's coming in to drop their strategic bombing payload. And I don't think it'll be long for this, long for these fusion reactors here as those Hailstorms change their targeting. Okay, well, let's focus down one of them. No reason to draw this out here. There we go. Tatters is gonna be, well, in tatters. Maybe it's taters. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be read. Juggernaut gonna self-destruct here. Will he get it? 3, 2, 1. He will not, but it does not matter. Juggernaut still goes down. Takes out a large portion of Nerul's base. Takes out all the energy converters. Takes out basically everything. That's gonna leave him with not enough power to do hardly anything. His own Juggernaut is out, but not really much it can do when it doesn't have enough power, doesn't have enough energy. And it's all, well, the Juggernauts not take power. Okay, never mind that, I suppose, but still, one Juggernaut does not a composition make. It's a lot of Condors. They're grouped up. One of these sand batteries fires. Wow, I was extremely lucky that none of those sand batteries fired right there. Well, there goes some flak turrets to shoot them down. And there they go, I guess. Hailstorm. Hailstorm? Whoa, he bounced. That's a bouncy hailstorm. Another commander goes down for the red team here. This is the collapse. So we didn't see the bombing run from the green player. We actually saw just a straight up push, just a good old-fashioned Juggernaut Starlight push. Can't say it's the most common one I've ever seen, but damn if it doesn't look effective. Just goes to show there's still some unique compositions to explore in this game. The southern side still holding valiantly. They think this is a wall cannon. That's funny. Not quite. Karganeth's tearing apart this base right here. Their missiles are very odd. They're a very odd unit in general. They kind of just waddle around and they launch their units, or they launch their rockets. It's very odd. I'm trying to think of the right word to describe them. They're sort of a grunt, I guess. They're kind of like a frontline skirmisher unit, but the fact that their missile does so little damage, but it fires so consistently. They're almost comparable to the Razorback, although way cheaper, way more disposable, I would say. But they kind of follow that trend. Lots of fire, volume of fire. It must be an orc-designed weapon. The spiders can climb all over the walls. Shall we build it with 4 legs so that it look like a spider's? Now it climbs all over the walls and shoots rockets down at all the enemies, all the gits down below. All the humans. here. Decides not to D-gun these, but instead we'll go for the cloak here. Oh, no, he changed his mind. Okay, there we go. Decides he's going to take down 2 of them, 3 of them before he goes. But these have already done their damage. These Shiva have already made it all the way through the back lines here. Tearing down some solar panels, why not? A little bit less offended to, or a little bit, well, I guess, a little bit less enthusiastic to see the advanced solar panels go down, but still. Nice to see those go down anyways, especially when we already have a massive economy back here. Just eat them up. They're not worth it. Now the red team is holding on, and the question is what for? This game is, I mean, I can respect a good last stand, but at this point you have been thoroughly overwhelmed. All sources indicate that there is not a lot going for you here. Green player should definitely end this. Has the bombers. Could send these bombers in here, although I guess there is quite a lot of flak. Well, yeah, there's a decent amount of flak. There's 4 flak turrets a base, which is not bad. Pit bulls are very powerful, especially against that T3 unit composition. Composition being 3 Razorbacks. Not a very complex composition, but a very effective one, so. Anti-nuke still persists. Do have to be careful bunching up those starlights, though. If they chain react, it's going to be a bummer. We're gearing up for that same push, though. Send in the Juggernaut with the starlights for fire support. It's going to be a blast. How do you counter that, by the way? I think the way I would do it is by sending out a stream of ticks and then using either T2 snipers, something like that, or using T3 units like Razorbacks or Titans or something like that in order to counter this. Frankly speaking, there's not a lot of counters, quote unquote, to the Juggernaut. It's not meant to be countered. It's meant to be a game ender. So seeing it on the battlefield is not a surprise. I like that shot right there with those starlights firing in the background. Juggernaut marching forward. Juggernaut will be D-gunned, and that actually blows up almost all of the units right here. That actually worked out pretty well. Commander did go down, so that's the last of those that we can do, and there's now tons of bombers headed in here. Bombers don't know that this isn't a Ragnarok. Just a bunch of basilicas. Still gonna bomb them into oblivion anyway. No reason not to. You have the bombers, right? Might as well. Missile trucks firing away. Oh, that is a devastating hail of missiles. We call that the missile drill. That's how you crack planets. Just set these to fire in one place. Oh, Razorback's getting pretty far here. That's dangerous. There we go. Chain reacts all the build power. Oh. Get the anti-nuke. Get the anti-nuke. Oh, no. There we go. Anti-nuke goes down, exposes this entire base to nuclear retaliation here. Fires away. Wow. Talk about fusion addicts. Really heavily invested in clean energy here. Loads of fusion reactors that are all going to be bursted down by the remaining forces. The overwhelming force. They're going to be protected by the remaining forces of the orange player, but bursted down by the overwhelming forces from all sorts of blue players. Only 2 dudes pushing. That's true. There is like, it feels like there are 2 main dudes that are pushing in here. Looks like the red team will hold to the very last. A very honorable death here. 47 minutes into this game. Relatively long game on Forge, I have to say. And, oh, that was quite satisfying, seeing those missiles fire in a nice circle like that. Very nicely done by the blue team. GG to all involved. That was very, very good. Love to see these matches on Forge. Hope everybody learned something valuable from this, whether it's that you should definitely play the Frontline on Forge because it is very, very fun. It's definitely where all the metal is, in case you're interested in that, which you should be. But anyways, I will see you in the next video. Thanks a ton. Peace out.